Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Pulse Social Sports Podcast, where this week we're speaking to Matthew Newby, the lead and head coach of the Worcester Wolves basketball team that play in the BBL.
I just wanted to say thanks for coming and taking the time and talking to us. Really, I appreciate that you're a busy guy, and thanks for giving your evening.
No worries. So I'm Matt Newby. I'm the head coach and director of basketball at the Worcester Wolves. Worcester, but I'm originally from Yorkshire. I was born in Harrogate, and I coached for a long time in Leeds.
Oh, perfect. And so, how and why did you first become involved with basketball as a sport? Really?
So when I was about, I want to say 11 or 12, a new teacher came to our high school, a guy called Steve Merrifield, who was a professional basketball player and a Carnegie physical educator. And he kind of came to the school and introduced the sport to the school, and it suddenly became kind of something I wanted to be part of and do. I played a lot of sport when I was at school, but hadn't grown really yet. So the rugby field was pretty rough some days. So basketball seemed like a good way of going about it.
No, of course. I understand that you were a university level basketball coach to start off with. Is that correct?
So in 2006, I took a job at Leeds Metropolitan University, but I'd already coached junior national league before that. But basically, they were looking to develop a performance program in a number of sports. So basketball was one of them, and I applied for the job. And the original job was 50% of the time with the university developing the performance program, and 50% of the time working in the community in Leeds for one of the school sports partnerships at the
time. How would you say that coaching university level differs to, and obviously coaching a high performance university level differs to the level that you coach at now?
I mean, the program we grew in Leeds, we had the aspirations of being a professional team, and actually got there over about a decade in. We went into the BBL in 2014. But I think the level of the players that you work with, obviously, the diversity of the players that you recruit and their various backgrounds, and certain standards, in terms of, we play in a 2,000 seat arena in Worcester, and we're very, very fortunate to have the luxury of some outstanding facilities. And that when you level up, that tends to be the difference, the quality of the support mechanisms, the quality of the administration, the quality of everything, really.
No, absolutely. And I understand that you were also involved with scouting, or you were at Leeds Beckett and City of Leeds Academy. What sort of people would you be looking for when recruiting, and were there any characteristics or kind of personality traits?
Well, you tend to scout on every level. It's just, again, the standard to which you do it. It depends on, obviously, your means and the amount of time that you have. But when you're recruiting at any level, you're looking for the right level of talent for the level you're playing at, or ideally bringing in somebody that's a higher level again that will really help you. And when you're recruiting young people, you're looking for certain physical attributes, certain cognitive attributes, certain skill set, their physical literacy. When you're beginning to look at competing at a good level, so let's say EABL in the Academy League or the British Universities Premier, then you're looking for players that have got some sort of pedigree. They've played Junior National League, they've got a level to them, and hopefully on top of that, they've got the willingness and the ability to grow in your system, or grow in your program, or grow in your environment. And certainly the personal traits of those individuals would be, hard work, diligence, the ability to communicate, all these sorts of things,
No, absolutely. I can fully understand kind of wanting to nurture an athlete's development and growth. And jumping to yourself a bit more personally, what would you say has been the highlight of your career?
The highlight of my career was probably a couple of them. Probably a couple of them. One was the BBL Cup final last year, but that was quite a big moment for me and my family. Then on top of that, probably the Division 1 title in 2014, because that was kind of the end of a period of my career in terms of development and so forth. Yeah, so yeah, those are the two ones.
No, definitely. And then jumping on the flip side, what would you say have been the main challenges that you faced whilst coaching at all different levels?
I think different challenges come at different times. So, in terms of balancing your family life, it's not very, very easy when you're involved in coaching. I've got 2 daughters and a good lady that don't see me a lot of the time because I'm on the floor or traveling the country. So that's a challenge in itself. Sometimes dealing with particular groups, actually trying to refine and define the dynamic of a team, that can be challenging at times. And then there's obviously day-to-day instances in practice or in games where, that's the beauty of sport, isn't it? It's a very, very variable environment. So by its very nature, you're going to come up with challenges each day, but actually overcoming those challenges and redefining how you do things and how you deal with people, that's actually healthy, and I think that's probably one of the virtues of sport, is that there can be some very testing and challenging times, but you when you come out on top, there's a big smile to have and a good feeling inside.
No, absolutely. I can fully appreciate that sentiment. And I wanted to ask about the team's kind of playing fixtures, if you don't mind. I understand that you had 2 fixtures that were played on the 12th and 13th of February. Are these 2-day fixtures common? And how would you say that the players recover and turn around for the next fixture, the next day possibly?
Yeah, I mean, that hasn't been easy, but the season's been condensed due to the nature of the backdrop of COVID, obviously. So it can be the case that normally you'll have 2 games over a weekend, so potentially a Friday and a Sunday. Sometimes a back-to-back, just simply because of the availability of the facilities. But at the moment, we've been playing up to 3 games a week. So, that's been a very, very significant challenge for the players, because to physically go through 40 minutes of basketball and then bounce back in 24 or 48 hours is not easy, because it's a very demanding game. But our guys have been doing pretty well. We rehab them in the week. They've got strength and conditioning, they've got the ice baths that they jump into, and then they've just got to be really, really sensible with their sleep and their nutrition. It's not an ideal situation, but every team in our league's going through it, so we've just got to control the controllables.
No, absolutely. And you obviously, so you mentioned the kind of the recovery phase and the ice baths and the physiotherapy, I think you mentioned. How what's it like for the players to need to do that recovery? And you said that multiple games in a weekend are quite common.
It's part of their schedule anyway. And if they're a professional athlete, that level of support is required. I think, it's just mapping and planning it in the right way and making sure that they understand the merits of it. They see the worth in it, and they are diligent whilst they do it. Sometimes it's not easy to stick to the process and protocol associated with it, but if it means you perform better on the next day or on the next week, then it's kind of a must.
And then obviously, so you mentioned the arenas and playing in the stadiums as well. And would you say it's been difficult for the team and yourself to be playing without the fans allowed to watch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think every sport has suffered from that. Ultimately, a home game should be an advantage, right? With the fans screaming and cheering. And in Worcester, we have a very, very big fan base, and very enthusiastic fan base, and that definitely gives the players a lift. And for me, it's important that we try and mitigate that. But yeah, it's been difficult because sportsmen and women enjoy the environment. It's when the fans are in, whether you're visiting a venue or whether you're hosting in the opposition, it's an exciting place to be. And unfortunately, due to coronavirus, they had to make that call. But I think the British Basketball League in itself has done an incredible job in keeping the sport going and ensuring that there's been a product on TV, there's been a product on the floor, and in reality, not too many games have been affected by, certain teams, including ourselves, had to quarantine. But that's it really. We miss the fans, they miss us, and hopefully we'll get back to it soon.
No, absolutely. I can understand kind of the thrill of being a fan and kind of watching any match being played. And finally, one last question. How would you say that the team and yourself coped during lockdown, and how did it affect the training schedule?
Well, we've been quite fortunate in that, like I say, the sports kept on ticking. So our day-to-day in terms of our responsibilities hasn't really changed. So the guys are practicing, the guys have been training, they've been doing their strength and conditioning, they've been doing their sports therapy. So the actual cadence of the week has been fine. It's just, unfortunately, and I'll say this, the guys, the young men, and they haven't had the opportunity to have that sort of respite socially, to interact like all of us, and just have some chill, if that makes sense. So I'll be looking forward to the time when they can do that and bring some balance back to their lives. But ultimately, we haven't really felt the effects of perhaps what other people have, because obviously we're classified as an elite sport. So the only caveat to that is we've obviously had to put all the protocols in place, do all the health and safety, and that's been significantly challenging at times.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't understand the pressures, but it seems like a strong or a tough season to face.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that the players have dealt with it I think is just really commendable. I'm not just talking about my team. I'm talking about across the league. There's guys that have travelled from other countries. They've been signed to professional contracts, and they're not necessarily getting the full package, if that makes sense, in terms of going to another country, experiencing another culture, experiencing what life is like in a new city. They're just busting their butt on the floor and working as hard as they can to get results.
I just I can appreciate you're busy, and I just want to thank you so much for taking the time. And
no, I really, really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope it goes well for you.
That's all we've got time for this week. We obviously want to say a massive thank you to Matthew for coming on the show with us, but a massive thank you to everyone at home as well. If you like more content like this, please like and subscribe to our Facebook, our Twitter, our LinkedIn, or our YouTube at Social CIC. That's all we've got for this week. We'll see you next time.